New video appears to directly contradict what the government says happened when a 16-year-old migrant died at a Border Patrol facility. He was left in a cell suffering from a 103-degree fever when he collapsed and died. ProPublica obtained the surveillance video from the cell at the Border Patrol facility in Weslaco, Texas, documenting the last hours of the teen's life. But we want to warn you, this video is disturbing, and some viewers may find it upsetting. It shows 16-year-old Carlos Gregorio Hernandez Vasquez lying on a bench in a cell that he shared with another sick boy. A few minutes later, he falls to the floor. Nobody appeared to notice. He's mostly still for the next few minutes. ProPublica reports he then vomits blood and staggers to the toilet. The Border Patrol claims that an agent checked on Carlos 3 times during the night, but it's not clear if those checks actually happened. There are portions of the surveillance video that are missing. They also claim they found Carlos during a welfare check. But in another part of the video that is too upsetting to show here, it appears Carlos's cellmate was the one who discovered him when he woke up 4 hours after Carlos collapsed. Carlos was pronounced dead a short time later. A CBP spokesman told ProPublica, quote, "While we cannot discuss specific information or details of this investigation, we can tell you that the Department of Homeland Security and this agency are looking into all aspects of this case to ensure all procedures were followed." According to ProPublica, Carlos was the 6th underage migrant to die after being detained while entering the United States in less than a year. 2 of them, at least, died from the flu. ProPublica's editor-in-chief, Steve Engelberg, joins me now. Steve, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Customs and Border Patrol says they can't give you information. How'd you get the video?
Well, it's an interesting story. The death occurred in a facility in Weslaco, Texas, as you mentioned. The Weslaco police asked the question, could this young man, a 16-year-old, have died in foul play? Could his cellmate have killed him? And so, pursuant to that investigation, they asked the Border Patrol for any materials that they would have. The Border Patrol turned over a limited amount of video to the local police, which determined that he died of the flu, not at the hands of his cellmate. And so for that reason, we don't have anywhere near the full tape that one would have. We filed a public records request with the Weslaco police, obtained the material from them, but what they have is missing the 4 hours roughly when he collapsed to when he was discovered.
So there could be more information on there, but nobody's providing that.
Possibly so.
What's the implication here?
Well, the implication here is that the United States government put a 16-year-old in an icy cold cell with a Mylar blanket, suffering from the flu, about to die. And it's fairly clear from this video, I would argue, that nobody checked on him until his cellmate discovered he was dead. I think that's something that there should be some accountability questions about. To this date, as far as we know, no one has been held to account for these events.
Is there, they have said to you that they're looking into that. Does that mean there's an investigation, or was that sort of pro forma stuff that government PR gives out?
It's hard to say. I think this is, when you look at this video, it's fairly clear that something has gone badly amiss. What the video shows, the most important thing the video shows, is that when it stops rolling at about 1:40 in the morning, he's in one position. He remains in that position, his feet sticking out from the toilet, for the next 4 hours. The video that starts again when he's found at 6 in the morning, his feet are in exactly the same position. And what that tells you is that if they checked on him, they almost certainly didn't do
anything about it.
Well, apparently the coroner was told they checked on him by looking through a window. So, but even if you're looking through a window, you see this kid lying unmoving for 4 hours, and you don't go in and at least shake him a little bit. You don't do something. And I'm not sure, by the way, as we know from the Jeffrey Epstein case, in prison sometimes you have situations where people say they do these so-called welfare checks,
right,
but they don't.
There was another big report this week by ProPublica and the New York Times on the role that McKinsey, the international consulting firm, played in developing and executing the Trump administration's immigration policies. I want to just quote from that report of the New York Times, which says the money-saving recommendations the consultants came up with made some career ICE staff uncomfortable. They proposed cuts in spending on food for migrants as well as on medical care and supervision of detainees. It goes on to say McKinsey's team also looked for ways to accelerate the deportation process, provoking worries among some ICE staff members that the recommendations risked short-circuiting due process protections for migrants fighting removal from the United States. This story is interesting on a number of levels because what a consulting firm does for a business to achieve efficiencies is not really the way we should be thinking about government.
I agree. I mean, you know, someone like McKinsey comes into a situation like ICE. You know, they're going to sort of take out a white piece of paper and start dreaming of what you could do. And, you know, the fact that ICE personnel were saying, let's not do this, is encouraging. But you do wonder what other government agencies are bringing in what other consultants, what kind of great ideas are they having that are not being knocked down.
Yeah.
So I think this is a fascinating story.
The privatization of this is something that is a sort of a story on the side that not everybody is clear on, that this isn't just your tax dollars and government employees at work. There are money-saving things at play here, which might be resulting in some of the things that we're hearing about.
Yes, I think that's true. Although in the case of the first story that we talked about, that was clearly the United States government faced with an influx of migrants and being utterly unprepared.
Right.
Which is a very.
And we've heard that from the Customs and Border Patrol. They're the first to admit they weren't in this business of detaining all these people. Right.
Although, as the story points out, interestingly enough, I mean, there was a dispute among the agencies. The Border Patrol had projected that there would be more migrants, that there would be a problem. And HHS, which has the facilities to house kids, said, no, we think the shelters are going to be emptied out. We're changing some procedures. More parents are going to pick up more kids. We're going to be fine. So the government had a sense this was going to happen, didn't prepare very well.
Good to see you, Stephen. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Stephen Engelberg is the editor-in-chief of ProPublica.